Time for baseball night in New York. Let's bring in Mark Malusis, Sal Licata, and our SNY baseball insider, Anthony McCarron. We'll start with you, Mark. Do you like this choice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an intriguing choice. Ultimately, he's going to be judged by how the team performs, right? So you look at the positives of Aaron Boone, and Larry, you just mentioned, I mean, a good communicator, certainly polished, been around the game a long time. You look at his father, Bob, Brett, his brother was also in Major League Baseball, and so he's been around the game a long, long time. I think the case is here is that certainly he is just a different personality than the guy going out. And I think that's a huge factor here where, listen, all the positives that Joe Girardi won a lot of games in the regular season, 910 World Series in 2009. I think the Yankees grew tired maybe of basically his persona, the way he came across the players, the way he came across the management at times. And I think Aaron Boone is kind of a softer personality, a little bit more welcoming, a little bit more of a warmer individual. I think that's really what enticed, especially he hit on all the key points, you know, analytics, making decisions in a collaborative nature moving forward, a good communicator. I think that's what makes Aaron Boone the choice.
Moose, one of the big things, and you just pointed it out, is I think he's a genuinely warm guy, and I think that really resonated with the Yankees. I mean, we'll go back to a story from his days with the Reds. You know, there was a longtime beat writer that covered the Reds for years for the Dayton paper, Hal McCoy, Hall of Fame baseball writer. His vision was failing, and Aaron Boone reached out to this guy, took him around the locker room to talk to players, to facilitate interviews. So this is the kind of guy, he's a genuine person, and I think that is a little bit of a contrast to the sort of, you know, we got a rough, intense edge from Girardi, you know, certainly during his tenure as a Yankee, and I think that this is something that the Yankees were looking for, and they got it in Boone, and I think it's an inspired choice, a little bit out of the box, you know, and I know that there are some fans fretting over the lack of experience, but I think that's okay.
Well, I mean, now you have to get used to it, right? I mean, everything that I believed in a manager growing up was always you need to have experience. You want a guy who's, you know, going to go get after these players. Now it's everything but that. Analytics, you don't need any experience. You want guys who are nice and loving and caring. I mean, you read some of the stories about him. He's a poor man's Mickey Callaway with the same stuff. Remember Callaway saying, oh, I want to love the players. And Boone saying, well, we're going to care about the players more than anybody else. So you need to evolve and understand that the sport is going in a different direction. And with that being the case, you don't need experience like Hensley Moons, where you maybe feel bad for a guy like him who's worked his way up. You don't need to be a former Yankee great. You don't need to have all this experience managing the minors or whatever it may be. You just need to be somebody that's, you know, a guy who knows baseball, obviously, can be relatable to the players. And, you know, Boone has great experience. You mentioned all the family ties and all those things. It's an interesting hire outside the box, well, but it's unknown. We don't know what Aaron Boone's going to be.
He strikes me as a collaborative kind of guy, too. Yeah. I think that's going to be instrumental. That was instrumental in his hiring, I think, too, because, you know, the Yankees front office is going to dictate a lot of the way the team is run on the field. Maybe not the every in-game strategy move down to do you bunt here or do you do this here, but I think he's going to get a lot of lineup suggestions, and he's the kind of personality who will work with that and accept that.
You talk about the relatability with the players in the clubhouse. How does that translate? And will he be able to relate to these players? And how good will he be in the clubhouse?
Yeah, I think he'll be better than Girardi. I mean, I do think, and there are positives and negatives when you look at Girardi, what he was as a manager. Here's what it comes down to. The guy's going to respond. Regardless of what you say about Girardi out, the players responded when he asked them to respond. You saw that in the playoffs after his managerial gaffe in the divisional series against the Cleveland Indians. Here's what I do know about this. I look at Aaron Boone, I'll say, all right, can he be a nice guy, but can he be tough when he needs to be tough, right?
Firm.
And that's the big thing that you need to be is it's okay to be relatable. It's okay to be everybody's best friend. But when you need to send a message and be able to get a guy to respond, can you go out there and do it? And can that guy respond? I think that's going to be fascinating when you look at him transitioning to the dugout.
Yeah, and if you think about, you know this guy is going to be comfortable with the media responsibilities of the job because he's been in the media. He was a great guy to deal with as a player, and he did it on TV. But now, does he send a message through the media? How does he's got to calculate how his words are going to be hit in the clubhouse. How will they be perceived by the players when he says something, when he's quoted about a player's gaffe, an error here or whatever, or a decision with how they're going to use guys, how are those words going to resonate in the clubhouse? And so we'll see as he figures those things out, and that's going to be part of the challenge of the job.
You're right. It's just weird to have somebody figure that out at the major league level. I mean, there's nothing to go on. Again, this is not the first time that a guy's been hired like this. We know that this is the new wave of baseball big league managers. Simple as that. They don't hire guys based on experience anymore, so it's just a great unknown. don't. I don't think that it takes a guy to, have to go to the minor leagues for 10 years to be able to manage a big league club. But he's coming into New York, the New York Yankees, a team that went to Game 7 of the ALCS a year ago. Really nowhere to go but down from there. I mean, you got to win 5 more games than Joe Girardi did last year. Not to mention that Girardi did have a World Series win. So Boone's got a lot of work to do here to live up to the expectations.
And listen, it's a strange hire, right? So, you harken back to 03 when he hits that home run off Wakefield, right? Then that offseason, he's playing basketball, tears up his knee, brings about the A-Rod era, and you felt bad at the time for Aaron Boone and saying, his Yankee career was so short-lived. Who would ever think 14 years later he would be introduced and soon to be introduced as the next Yankees manager?
His chance to make up for getting A-Rod on us.
Yeah, exactly.
Anthony, real quick, we talked about this earlier. Have the Yankees devalued the managerial position?
Yeah, I think their whole...
it's like the NFL running back.
Yes, I think the whole search indicated that they did not have a, quote, star, like you were talking about, Sal, a star manager. Tony La Russa did not interview for this job, was not a candidate for this job. I don't think you need those guys anymore. Teams are certainly not looking at them that way. The Yankees certainly are not looking at that way. And so you have to look at the candidates like that. And they were screaming that they were not going traditional through the whole process.
That was obvious.
Yeah.
By the list of guys.